Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for a John Cusack movie I loved back about 10 years ago, as of April 27th, I believe. It has been 10 years since this movie came out, and I feel like I'm the only person on the entire planet that actually liked this movie when it came out. I still enjoy it. I just watched it for the first time in probably 6 years? It's been a long time. Anyway, that movie is the 2012 release called The Raven. This is a very different movie that a lot of people don't like. A lot of Edgar Allan Poe fans don't like. I myself am a Poe fan. I'm more of a mainstream Poe fan, though. I haven't read much of his short story stuff, but when I haven't been super thrilled. I love Telltale Heart. I love, his poetry. Typically, I'm a big poetry guy. I think Edgar Allan Poe has some of the best style when it comes to poetry writing of all time, especially with things like The Raven, which the film is named after. I love Edgar Allan Poe. And I remember when this was announced, the idea of John Cusack playing Edgar Allan Poe was kind of goofy to me. But actually seeing him in the movie, he looks good. He looks like Edgar Allan Poe in a cool way. Some of those old pictures you see people post all over the internet of Edgar Allan Poe. He looks good for this role. Essentially what this film is about is the last days, probably the last week of Edgar Allan Poe's life. Now mind you, it's not a total, true story thing. It's like a murder mystery type of movie. It's like a what-if thing. Because if you don't happen to know, and I only know this because of the essay I wrote back in high school for Edgar Allan Poe's life as a biography, he died in a very, very mysterious way. Of course, he was an alcoholic. I think people have rumored he might have some kind of drug addiction of some sort. The dude died in such a weird place and situation. No one still really knows what happened to him. It's really weird. But this film kind of shows like a what-if murder mystery type of twist on that idea, and I think it's very effective, in my opinion. It's a very fun little movie. A little long. It's about an hour and 50 minutes, maybe an hour and 45 without the credits. It's a little bit long, but it was fun. It's still fun this time around, all these years after I've seen it like 4 or 5 times, and I still had a good time with it. Basically what happened is Edgar Allan Poe has pretty much produced all of his short stories and poetry by this point. He's just kind of working as like a newspaper type of, not even like a journalist, just a content writer for a newspaper type of thing. And all this dude does is trash other writers. It's great. Watching him trash like Longfellow and stuff, it's so much fun. I love it. It just feels like a writer type of thing, It's great. John Cusack's great in these roles too, or in this particular role, I mean. I love John Cusack in general. He's kind of a forgotten gem of America, but, I love the guy. He's been great ever since Better Off Dead, Anyway, he's marching around in a situation because people start being found dead in the ways that he killed people in his stories, like in The Pit and the Pendulum, for example. That's one of the first ones that's shown. And then throughout this story, it's Luke Evans as the lead investigator, as a policeman, that's going around with Edgar Allan Poe to go find the different clues, try to solve the mystery, and try to figure out who's committing all these murders. And it may or may not be Edgar Allan Poe himself, John Cusack. It's a very crazy movie, but in a fun way. You have everything from kidnap to extreme, really shockingly good gore. Even though a lot of it can be CGI, I'll get to that later on in the section of the film review, but I really, really, really like this movie, and I think it has a lot more effectiveness to it than people give it credit for. There's some familiar faces in here, by the way, and they're good. I think everybody's pretty much solid in the movie for what it is. It's kind of like a one-and-done, kind of forgettable movie to a lot of people, but I've always stuck with it and always really liked it. I'm surprised by how low the ratings are on IMDb. It's like a 5 out of 10 or something. I don't know. It kind of surprised me when I was looking at it this time around when I watched it just the other day. Anyway, for characters, I think Luke Evans is a good actor, He's good in this movie, but I think John Cusack is really sealing the role. He's in every scene pretty much as Mr. Poe, and he's great. Luke Evans balancing off of that is good. Again, all the side cast, they do a decent job. The writing of the murder mystery, however, is a little bit different. I love the way he kills people. I think it's really fun and really engaging to see how maybe this killer or whatever may just be a fanboy of some sort, or he might be Poe himself. Whatever he's doing, he's trying to point people towards an appreciation almost of Edgar Allan Poe and his writings. That's kind of cool as a different way of doing this kind of movie. We've seen murder mysteries and thrillers constantly throughout history of mankind with movies and books and everything else. We've seen this story done tons of times with the murder mystery idea in a very Agatha Christie type of way. And I think this movie is very unique, not just because of the Poe part, but because of how explicitly gory it can be. You know, it's kind of like in a Saw way. This came out around the time that Saw was still important, and I think people were still making Saw movies at this point. And I love Saw, so this is right up my alley, you know? Anyway, the writing is very weird, a lot along with the performances. For example, you have many scenes where Mr. John Cusack, who I love in this movie, is just screaming at the top of his lungs. There are certain scenes where he just walks into a room and the kind of look on his face is hilarious. I really, really, really like it. I like his character being a drunk. I think that really works a lot of the time too. It's not played in a silly way most of the time, but when it is, it works really well, and it just shows how great Cusack is once again. But the murder mystery itself, you could probably guess who the killer is. That's fairly predictable, I think. I had forgotten by the time until I watched it this time around. How do you watch a movie that's a murder mystery with a big thriller twist like 6 times in your life over the course of 10 years, and how do you forget who the killer is? It was fairly predictable. I thought it was going to be somebody else until about halfway through the movie, and then it kicked in who it probably was, and I was right. But even so, I really enjoy this flick. I think it's mostly well executed. It has some cool stuff. There's a nice look to this movie, especially in the scenes that open and close the movie with Edgar Allan Poe sitting on a bench in a park. There's fog everywhere. As much CGI as in this movie, not just for the gore, but for scenes like this with the fog and everything, it's very effective. It has a very nice atmosphere to go along with the sets that we're on. I mean, the sets in this area, location shooting, all of it looks like traditional, like London and whatever, or wherever this takes place. It looks great. It's a beautiful looking movie most of the time, I want to say, especially the outside shots. But even in the interiors, they look really good for the sets and whatever. I really like all of that. I think it really is underappreciated when people talk about this movie as a period piece, about how well done it is. It really is a solid, well-made movie. It had a budget behind it. Clearly somebody cared enough to put some kind of money into this, you know? Now again, the CGI thing, I don't mind CGI gore and blood. Not all of it is that. Some of it is practical effects, and they look good too. They match up very well. They don't look better than the other, one way or the other. It's good, you know? I like that kind of thing. But the CGI is used for, again, other stuff like the moonlight and transitions and those kinds of shots that you can't do with anything but a computer. Then that's fine to me. That doesn't really bother me the way it would bother most people, so take that with a grain of salt. It might affect a lot of people's viewing experience with this movie, but oh well. The music itself is not anything to write home about. It's effective, it's fine, and that's about it. You know, it's just kind of there. When it comes to The Raven, it is not the most amazing movie ever made, but if you like thrillers, and if you like period pieces, and if you love, specifically love, Edgar Allan Poe's stuff, this movie's for you. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, it's not a true story, but that what-if scenario about the end of his life, and this 1 week or so before the day he died, it's fascinating, and I really like the way they went with this movie, and the direction they went, the way they developed this. Again, it's a little bit of a long movie. It shouldn't be 2 hours. It doesn't need to be. But still, I really like it. I think there's a lot of good stuff about this movie, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of all those things I just mentioned, or if you just want something different to watch. As a slasher fan, if you like slasher movies, this is clearly not just a thriller. This has a lot of gore and blood and manhunt and kidnap type stuff in it. If you like all that, this is a slasher movie to you, as it is to me. If I had to rate the film on a 5-star basis, I want to rate it higher, but I just can't. For me, with the kind of flaws that it has, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars, but I still really like it. To me, that's still a positive review. That's a good, and to me, it's above average. It's not at a 4, but it's above a 3 for me. But I don't do this whole 3.5, 3.7 trash people do on YouTube. That's stupid. Anyway, 3 out of 5 stars for me. I really like it. I think it's worth your time if you spend time on it. Just a little bit much sometimes. It goes a little bit overboard a little often. But anyway, for the most part, I really think it's a solid movie, and I recommend it. What do you guys think about The Raven if you've seen it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Put all your thoughts and comments down below, folks. I would love to hear what you have to say about this movie. I can't believe it's been 10 years since this thing came out. I saw this in theaters, dude. I was in middle school when this came out. You know? Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.